Hi, Charles. Charles, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hi, Daniel.
Yes.
We'll just wait a couple of minutes for people to return after lunch. Okay. Can those in Dar es Salaam? Charles, I don't know if they can hear me.
No. Okay. Okay. Hello, Anna.
Okay, we're getting a thumbs up.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, they can hear us.
Yes.
Anna, do you want to put the slides up? I think Anna can't hear us, actually. Anna, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, no, I know Tanzania can hear. I think Anna can't hear.
Yes.
Give us a moment.
We can hear you.
Anna, do you want to log out? Oh, she can't hear. She's gone.
Okay.
We're just waiting for Anna because she's got the slides. And then we're going to finish the customer journey and its cost implications, and then move on to the business cash flow, etc. Okay, Anna, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Slides, please.
Yeah, coming up.
They can hear us.
see that?
Yes, thanks. So, hope you all had a good lunch. This is slightly difficult doing it online because I would much rather be in the room with you all and taking questions and having more of a discussion, but we can perhaps tackle that. Well, we'll answer questions as much as possible, but I'm sure you over lunch you were able to talk to each other and learn from each other. So I have a couple of slides just to finish this customer journey. We were talking about follow up on the experience. Next slide, please, Anna. If they've had a good experience, how are you going to connect that right the way back to the beginning and publicize your success on the radio or in media? How are you going to connect to that whole national awareness campaign? These are all things that we would quite like you to mention and explain in your application so that we know that you're thinking holistically and as a system, and you're not just thinking, oh, this is a good product, I can get it wholesale, mark it up, sell it on. Next slide, please. But of course, for them to have a sustainable good experience, they do need repair. What will be the warranty that you're going to offer, and how do people access that warranty? Now, that's quite complicated if you're importing the devices from elsewhere. So often when people get a container load of devices, they get a few extra so that they can swap out the dud ones. Depending on how good your source factory is, you know, people often have 2 to 3% of devices that are not functioning when they first fire up. Excuse me. So how does the customer come back to you? How do they get it repaired? As Anna said at the beginning, there is also a repair thread to our overall project, and there will be a training of technicians to be able to do repairs across the country. And then you have to decide whether you want your own bespoke people to repair it, or whether you're going to trust this network of repairers and technicians. So that's something to consider. I put on this slide whether there are extras to buy. One of the things we find with electric pressure cookers is people would like a second pot. They don't naturally come with second pots in the boxed appliances, and so getting a set of second pots imported and ready, or even locally made, that actually can be quite lucrative, because you can often charge a slightly higher profit margin on extras than you can on the main device. So that's worth considering, particularly with induction stoves. You have the whole question of specialist cookware. You must have an induction ready pot to be able to cook with an induction stove. And I've recently been with another country where we're actually doing an experiment, 700 people, each getting slightly different, well, about 200 each getting a set of cookware with the device, and seeing how much that changes their use of the device. So some people started off with very small pots and complained, and so have now got bigger pots, and their use of the device is increasing. So cookware, extras, a larger pan, second pots, these are all things that you should consider, and if at all mention in your business plan. And then also there are other devices that might be connected. You might, in your sales, Anna at the beginning said that there were a load of devices that are not eligible for the seed fund, such as kettles and microwaves. But it may be very natural to sell kettles in the same product range or the same web page or the same shop as your main device. While that doesn't qualify for seed funding, it should help your sustainable business plan by having more than one product. It's quite difficult to run a business where you're only selling one thing. And indeed, I hope that many of you in the room are already selling other products, and this is just a product to add into your portfolio of products. Next slide, please. I think this is the last slide. End of life, not for you, but for the device. Eventually, the device and our appliance will fail. As I've said, my EPC is actually still going 12 years on. But e-waste and waste generally is going to be a global problem for the foreseeable future. And it would just be nice if you were able to consider now how you're going to help the customer dispose of that device sensibly. Obviously, a device doesn't just carry on working and then stop and then you have to throw it away. It carries on working, it stops, and then you have to consider whether it can be repaired. And there are various degrees of repair that might get it back up and working. It might even mean switching out the PCB board or whatever. So at what point will you give up on that product or that device and collect it in so that it's not just dumped in general waste? So there's upscaling, there's repurposing bits of the device, etc. There's generally, in our experience, a cost to the actual disposal of devices. And then that relationship with the customer, are you just going to shrug your shoulders and say, oh, well, it had a good life, bye? Or are you going to offer the customer an upgrade and swap it out for the older model? Okay, I think that's the last slide of this section. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I will pause for questions, although I suspect that many of you are sitting there waiting for the next section, which is all about forecasting cash flows, unit costs, etc. But we really wanted you in your application to show us that we're getting value for money by showing us how you've considered that customer journey and how you've incorporated all the costs of that those marketing costs and the sales costs. Cost of customer acquisition is the highest cost in little solar home systems. And when solar home systems are such small things anyway, just for lights, it's that cost of acquisition that is the major cost there and ruins people's profit margins, which is why the whole solar industry has had such difficulties and challenge. I'm looking around. Any hands up? Charles, any questions in the room? Rajab, yes, please.
Thank you. I would like to go back from the previous question that I raised about the what are the measures we may try to tackle and to use during the price fluctuation, because you say that on the spreadsheet I have provided a specific cost during the time, but after the competition, I mean, maybe I've received the fund, the price of the buying or purchasing such kind of a price has changed. So what the measures should I use in order to encounter this kind of price fluctuation in order to, so that it can, as you say, you insisted about the price efficient, you say price efficient use, that what, yeah, I mean integrity on the price that we've been provided on on the budget. So what are the measures should we use in order to ensure that once we have provided the spreadsheet of the price at the time, once even the price is going to change, what measures should we use in order to withhold any slight changes of the economic that has been faced at the time? Also, the next question is all about, you have been saying here, service support. About the advocacy on the media costs. So can that be used on the budget? Maybe I have to use certain media for advertising the program that I'm selling, such kind of the e-cooking appliances, or I have to use an alternative means of supplying this apart from using the media cost.
Okay, I'll take the second question first. Yeah, no, that's my whole point for raising it. Those media costs are a real cost to you and your business. So if you present us with the business breakdown, and it doesn't include your sales staff, your media costs, then we're going to be sitting looking at it thinking, are they a serious business? You know, where are they going to get the money for the media costs? And you know, that would worry us because we're not sure you're going to have a successful business. What we're looking for is signals from you that you've thought about the whole picture and the whole customer journey, and that you've allowed for all the different costs all the way through. So it's not that the seed fund can only purchase appliances to be sold on. It's the seed fund can be used to create a sustainable business. And then to your first question about unit costs and what happens when the currency changes or the cost changes. Yeah, that's this next section. So let's just move straight on to that. I don't see any other hands. It was a good question first time round, and it's a great question second time round. But you've just put your hand up, so go for it.
Yes, an additional question is about the service support. I have a doubt, especially during the actually you clearly said about the programs, training program that is ongoing. People provide some technicians are provided with training programs. So once few of us we are going to start selling, and as the main objective of this program is all about sustainability. So what if I am going to have a sale from the undeserved populations, and yet the training program hasn't reached there? So what are the quick measures? Maybe you say we have to think or we have to think basically if we can try to connect using the training program all by ourselves. So as you know, some of us we're new in the business. I mean, to encounter two things at once. You manage at the same time, you train, you conduct sales requirements. So is there any advice you can provide on how we can able to operate these teams simultaneously? Because we know, even for a good example, there's a certain region in Tanzania. Most people come from rural areas, but their economic status a little bit supported. But when you provide them with any kind of service, basically in electrical appliances, they always get a challenge because where they live is outside the city. I mean the urban area. So it's quite difficult for us like a businessman to try to withhold all the costs. I mean, go and follow up the customer who live outside from the urban. So what's your advice to us? What should we take in considerations once we face some kind of customers? Like some of the customers, they are outside, they live from rural areas, but they wish to, once they bought this these products, and we have the customer management support. How should we count them once they outside the
Yeah,
I
no,
mean the urban area?
yeah, no, great question, Ray. Great job. So that is why I emphasize that how are you going to follow up? Because you're right. Somebody may have traveled into an urban center. They may have come to where you sell your product. They've got a product, but now they've taken it 50, 100, 150 miles away. Hopefully you've got their phone number so that at least you can find out whether it's working. But then they go and they face some problems. Maybe the wiring in their house is not good enough, and they plug the device in, they blow the fuse. Yeah, that you have to be prepared for that. Now, you can be prepared several ways. One is the whole point of us trying to create a repair network is so that any one seller of these devices doesn't have to create a network across the whole country and all the areas that they might reach with repair technicians. Hopefully, eventually, and you're quite right to identify that you're going to be selling these things in the coming 12 months, and that repair network might not actually be up and running and the technicians trained. So again, it's a question of how do we blend the aspiration of a repair network with your immediate needs. That was why I mentioned getting a few extra devices that you have designated not to sell, but actually to replace and replace with a customer. When a customer says, my device is completely broken, but it's still within a warranty, I want something done, then you don't have to train a technician. You can just swap it out for the moment, and then you can look at your leisure at the device and try to find out what's wrong. But your question contained two elements. What happens when that customer is 100 miles away? It's not going to be cost effective for you to travel 100 miles to swap out a device. So I'm not sure I can solve that all now. What we have learned is get some extra products so that you can do some swapping out. Work towards a repair network so that you've got a technician. When they phone up and say my device is broken, you can say, okay, take it to such and such town. It's only 10 miles away from where you are, and there's a technician there. But also you could consider not selling to people who are going to be beyond your reach. So again, that is a strategy. It prevents you from selling maybe 5% of your stock, but you could actually say to the customer, where are you going to use this? And then just say, oh, I'm really sorry, but we worry about if it breaks down, it'll be very expensive for you to bring it back. Let's just we can't really do that. Of course, that doesn't preclude people who buy it and then auntie from the rural area visits and shows interest, and then they give it to auntie and she takes it back. So yeah, it's a complex scene that you're entering, and that's the best I can do in terms of an answer for the moment. I don't see your hand going. Yeah, go on.
I add something. So another option would be if you are purchasing from a company that's already importing device appliances. Some of those companies already have their own kind of systems of how to do repair and maintenance because they've had to create that, right? So if you plan to purchase from one of those companies, and we will list them in a minute, you could explore with them whether or not you could use their repair and maintenance kind of services and fundies. I don't know if they would be okay with that. I'm just saying it's a conversation that could be had, and might help to figure this out.
I haven't forgotten your point about fluctuating exchange rates, etc. But Rugola has just put his or her hand up, please.
Yes, it's Rugola. Thank you for such a nice presentation. Maybe I might have missed it, but I just want to know the focus of the seed fund on technologies. Is it only on e-cookers, or it's other technologies such as biogas stoves and the rest are also in the picture? Thank you.
Yeah, the picture sums it up. These are the technologies that are eligible. We did talk about it at the beginning, but some people, maybe you were not at the very beginning. I hope that covers it. Farida has a hand, so that's Charles. Yeah, Charles, please.
Thanks, Simon. Yeah, we have a question here.
Yeah, so we had a discussion during the lunch session. And we were looking at, and one of the things that popped up in the discussion was around the national campaign. And so as a team, we're trying to figure out, are we building the national campaign based on how we will operate and how our proposals will be, or would you have the national campaign already in place, which we could then build on top of it? Because let's say I have offices operating in Tuara, for instance, and then it doesn't make sense if I'm selling in Tuara, but the national campaign is only focused, let's say, on the Southern Highlands. So we're thinking how, as a team, the benefits of joining the national campaign, knowing which areas we should be moving, or should we just be thinking in a silos, everyone in the areas they want to work in, and then the national campaign. So in other words, we want to know how do we benefit from the national campaign. And then the other thing is you mentioned warrant, but you didn't give us a timeline of the warrant. I guess every equipment has its own warrant, but just to give an idea, I know you told us your experience of having a cook stove for 12 years, but we all want to know what would be the warrant on average.
Back to you, Simon.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, good question. The first question, I'm not sure I caught the second question, but what I'll do is I'll get Anna to answer the first question about the National Awareness Campaign, and she's come to the slide that we were going to show you.
Yeah, so good question about the National eCooking Awareness Campaign. I'll just fill you guys in a bit more. So the reason for this campaign is, as I said, many people are unaware that eCooking is feasible and can save them money, can save them time. So there will be a professionally designed campaign to increase that public knowledge. And at the moment, so that consists of 3 phases. The first phase is kind of marketing research. How do you best market eCooking appliances to Tanzanians and to the different market segments across Tanzania? Then there will be the design phase, and then there will be the rollout. So there's a company called Fern Marketing that has been contracted to do this piece of work, the marketing study, the design of the campaign, and then the rollout. So the actual campaign in terms of what people see will start in June 2025, so next year. That is because we have this 3 or 4 month period of marketing research done by a professional agency, and then a few months of design, and then the campaign. So I think the thing to take away from the fact that we are running this national campaign is it is supposed to be across Tanzania. It will include some messaging and marketing in Zanzibar, but it will target a variety of segments. One of those is people who are in urban centres already connected to the grid, but they are also going to be looking at peri-urban. So it's going to be quite above the line marketing. by which I mean there's going to be social media, TV, and radio. And then there will be some targeted below the line on the ground activities, for example, at trade fairs. But a lot of it will be on social media, TV, and radio. So that will be expansive and hopefully reach many, many different areas. In terms of, I think the thing to take away from it is that around June next year, there's going to be a lot more. What's the word? A lot more talk, a lot more advertising about e-cooking. It won't be specific to any brand. It will be general e-cooking. E-cooking is feasible. E-cooking is, exciting, is modern, saves you money, saves you time. Those messages will start to be broadcast. So I guess in your business plan thinking, you can be thinking that around that time, the public awareness is likely to start to increase. And that might be something that you can kind of capitalize off. I guess that's what I would say about that. The next question, Simon, was about warranties and what are the standard warranties for appliances. And you said that yours was working for 12 years, but also what is the warranty periods and stuff like this. And I guess that depends on the manufacturer and where you're getting the appliance in terms of how many years the manufacturer gives. But maybe you want to add something, Simon.
Yeah, I mean, I think most appliances have the standard 1-year warranty. You do find them with 2 and 3 years, and there's an interesting growth in warranty when it comes to carbon markets, because a carbon market you can get carbon finance for 7-8 years on the life of the device, and the supplier gets the carbon finance. It's up to them whether they pass it on to the consumer or not. I'm not sure whether we have a section on carbon in the slides, but if you want the person to sustainably use that device in order to get the carbon finance, then obviously you give them a much longer warranty. So there are warranties across in Asia that are 5 years now, in order to make sure that the device works for at least 5 years and they get 5 years worth of carbon finance. We can loop back to that. I mean, most devices will work for 5 to 8 years anyway, and as long as they're not abused. Okay, let's go on to the business journey. I don't see any other hands. Okay, Anna, could we scroll back? Oh, Jane has got a point, and then Volt Africa has got a point. Right, let's do Jane first. She got in there just quick enough.
Thanks, Simon. So there's a question in the chat from Kennedy asking about question. This is on the side of suppliers or maintenance and repairing of e-cookers. Are you going to consider those that are based in Tanzania only, or Kenya? I think that's where they're based.
I'm not sure I fully understand the question.
No, Kennedy, do you want to unmute and ask your question, please? Kennedy? Shall we move to Volt? And if Kennedy, we can come back to Kennedy. Oh, and
okay.
I think it might just be an eligibility question as to whether or not an organization from Kenya is. Oh.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can now. Yes.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, please go ahead, Kennedy.
Yeah, my question was this: are you going to consider the supplier of e-cookers only those that are based in Tanzania, or as well those are outside in Tanzania?
So we framed it that we would consider people who had we didn't say license. How did we frame it, Anna? We said who were eligible to sell in Tanzania, i.e. have gone through the hoop of registering their business or their branch of business. So you could be based in Kenya, and if you think that you are eligible to sell in Tanzania, then that's fine. You don't, the source of the supply doesn't need to be in Tanzania. The source, it's about who is eligible to connect with customers in Tanzania.
Okay.
Thank you. And Volt, please.
Hello, Simon, Jen, and everyone. Thank you so much for organizing the Seed Fund workshop. So a couple of questions. I may have not heard everything, but I wanted to know, do you have already pre-qualified and vetted suppliers for the eligible eCooking product line? That for developers who are planning to promote these products may quickly go into choosing some of these manufacturers. That's my first question. And another one would be, can we promote some of these products in town? Because I think we see a lot of people these days are concerned on the on energy, the cost of energy. So taking a look at some of these eCooking devices that developers and promoters would be promoting in Tanzania, we may have customers who are in towns and they may be looking. And talking of, let's say, people who are underprivileged, or talking of, the people that we are trying to support, especially on these clean cooking programs, are the people, some of these people who are underprivileged are in towns. We see a lot of communities in slums who are really using charcoal and things like that. So I'm wondering if we can be able to provide some of these services in towns. Yeah, those are my questions.
Thank you. I'll do second question first again. Yes, so definitely towns. I mean, the whole point is that you need a reasonable connection to the grid. It's interesting at the end you raise the whole point about informal settlements, and sometimes people in informal settlements sometimes get their electricity from their landlords. Sometimes they don't have very good wiring, and there's a bit of chaos with the cabling and everything. So in theory, yes, if you can make it work, the customer can come from anywhere, can come from the town or the rural area. This is not a program that is particularly focused on one geographical location. And also, it's not necessarily focused on one band of wealth. As UK Aid, we obviously want to reach the poorer segments of society, but there's often a lot of challenges there with trying to reach the very poor and the very vulnerable, and yet in like you say, in the centre of the town, people are still cooking with charcoal, and that is a health threat. It's a deforestation stations threat. And so any progress and movement towards modern energy cooking is welcomed, even if it's what we might call the middle class. And again, it refers back to an earlier question that just want to do cash purchase, because it will create momentum. It's a win-win for the government, because it will see an uptake of the electricity. It's a win for TANESCO, because people will actually be purchasing electricity, and they have just spent a lot on new generation capacity. And there is a potential challenge that you have all this capacity to generate, and then nobody actually wants to use it. So electric cooking is a mechanism there. But as we've shown over the last couple of hours, it's a win for the customer as well. So the seed fund is eligible for any geographic area in Tanzania, and actually, as long as you can describe a sustainable business plan, it's eligible for any segment of the population or any particular market. Again, I just pick up on your slums and informal areas. If you're going to go for that area, then you might need to add in to your processes some sort of wiring inspection. You might need to start hiring technicians that are going to go and check and make sure that the wiring will be able to take the appliance and accept the appliance. And then you had a question at the front end. Oh yeah, it was about suppliers. Are we going to point to particular suppliers? We were going to do that mildly. We're certainly not going to pick on one supplier and say you should all go from this. So I'm going to take this opportunity. Oh, Rajab has put your hand up again. I'm going to ask you to pause again, Rajab, and let's just go on to this financial journey of the organization. And that may answer one or two of the questions that are beginning to pop up. So thank you, Volt Africa. I'm sorry, I don't know who was speaking. I hope that are. All right. Okay, cool. Let's move on to the financial journey. So we were looking at the customer journey. Now we're going to want to look at the supplier journey, and that includes where you're going to get your product, etc. Next slide, please. So the seed funding may seem like a lot of money, and it is a grant. So it's not that you have to pay it back and you don't have to consider interest. But will it be enough for all that you want to do? Is a question you really need to ask right at the beginning. And if the answer is no, not quite, then in your application, will you please tell us where you're borrowing other initial capital to give you a strong start, and what the cost of the interest on that capital will be, and what you need in terms of economies of scale for ordering to make it all work. Again, it comes back to Rajab's question about fluctuating prices and even foreign exchange and interest rates. So we've just seen in another country, the interest rates have gone up, and that really threatens quite a lot of the business plans. In all of these things, it's worth doing a sensitivity analysis. Whenever you give us the forecast, you should, and we'll come to that in a moment, you should say, this assumes X amount of interest. If the interest goes up by 1%, our profit margin will come down. If it drops by 1%, and you can do that for the unit costs and all the various points. It's always worth looking at how sensitive is your forecast and your sustainable business plan to a change in any one of the variables. Next slide, please. So this is your question. How will we find the supplier? And will you buy from an importer or direct from a factory? That's difficult for me to summarize easily. We have experience of people who have gone to China and contacted a factory. Obviously, you're not going to travel to China, but actually something like Alibaba. There's Alibaba Express, which is where you can buy individual products, but there's Alibaba, which actually represents a factory, various factories in China. You can do the same for India, although I don't know of a single source like Alibaba for India. And in fact, Turkey make quite a lot of eCooking devices, and there are eCooking manufacturers around the world. But just to pick up on sort of the Alibaba, you can contact a factory, and you maybe want to make the product your own brand. And you may want to change the buttons so that it says ugali rather than some other Western food. And they are very amenable to those changes, as long as you have a minimum order quantity. And on Alibaba, they will tell you the minimum order when they will engage with you. There'll be discounts. If you buy, they'll offer you a sample of 2 devices or 3 devices so that you can see whether their device is of reasonable quality. And you pay a slight premium for that sample, and particularly you will pay a premium for the shipping cost of that sample. But then once you get more than 100 or 500, the prices come down, and the possibilities of actually adjusting that appliance to be more suitable for the cultural setting that you're in are there, and are cheaper than the samples. Obviously, shipping containers, it takes a while for a ship to actually come. So it's about planning well ahead so that you order devices if you are importing them, and give yourself time to actually get them arrived. And then you've got to clear customs and excise. Who's going to do that? How much taxes are there on these devices? And then once you clear it from customs, you need somewhere to store it. You don't want to leave it in customs because they will start charging you storage costs. So yeah, those are all challenges. I think the next slide is an alternative approach. Next slide, please. Yes. So the next slide is some organizations that are already importing these devices, and that maybe you could make an alliance with. Anna, would you like to speak through these people?
Yeah. So there are some organizations that we know about who are already importing eCooking appliances, and they're listed here. There may be others, but I think these are the ones that we're aware of. So Sescom in Dar es Salaam and import an EPC. They actually do 6 litres and 8 litres now, so they do 2 sizes. They've been in the market for about 4 or 5 years. Burn Manufacturing are in Dar es Salaam doing induction hobs. Jiko Chanya or Positive Cooker are based in Arusha, doing induction hobs. Smart Pika are based in Dar, are officially launching in January, and they have some EPCs and air fryers. They're a new company, but they're quite interesting because they're doing Paygo eCooking. So there's Paygo and monitoring technology embedded into those devices. It's worth saying that Burn is also doing Paygo. Oh, sorry, I'm just getting some feedback. Up Energy are also in Dar es Salaam doing EPC. So those companies we know about and are already importing. It could be possible that you talk to them and discuss whether or not you could make a partnership or something. And then I've also put here global brands. I mean, of course, there are many of these, but there is one organization called Group SEB who are interested in coming into the Tanzanian market. Is that or? Yeah, okay. Well, I'll leave it there then, I think, unless there are any questions on that.
Yeah, so just to build on what Anna said about Group SEB have been an interesting partner for us because they, as an a seller of EPCs on the international global market. They're a French-based group. You may know them under the name Tefl. You know, they were initially not interested to come to Africa. It was too risky a market. And then we engaged them, and they're quite strong now in Kenya. And they have now an African marketing manager who is seeking to actively expand their products into various bits of Africa, and as Anna said, Tanzania market. And again, just to emphasize that the burn manufacturing, Smart Peaker and Up Energy, I don't know about the other two, but they have Internet of Things built in. So they have the possibility of pay-go, and they also will then have the possibility of accessing a carbon market. Carbon market is a big subject in itself, and we did not, I don't think we attempt to try and describe it in this workshop about the seed fund, because it takes a year and a half to actually register and certify and get going. However, if you make an alliance with one of these others that are named here, you may be able to piggyback onto a carbon project that they're doing. So again, emphasizing that it's worth talking to them, worth exploring. Yeah.
And can I just add one more thing? So in terms of the topic of pay-go, Afodabo are a company in Tanzania as well, who are a service provider of pay-go and the Internet of Things monitoring technology that is needed for that. So they don't do their own eCooking appliances, but they are they work with suppliers of appliances or distributors to integrate that functionality into the appliance. So they're not on that list. But if you're interested in being connected to them, then you can talk to Charles, and he can make that connection. So that's a company called Afodabo.
That is interesting, Anna. Which Charles, sorry? Which Charles, the one we should talk to?
Okay, well, if you're not in the room with Charles, then you can drop me an email,
Okay,
which is anna@gamos.org.
got it.
Okay. And maybe I'll go on to the next slide, Simon. You can tell me if you want to take over, but this is about quality. So various people have been asking about quality and how to ensure quality of appliances, and this is a really big challenge. So I'll talk through what we know about quality. Oh, if everyone could just make sure they're muted, that would be great. Thank you very much. And explain what we're doing about it, but it's not something that is kind of really easily, quickly solvable. So some suggestions on quality of appliances. The Global Leap Buyer's Guide for Electric Pressure Cookers came out in 2020. So it doesn't contain more recent appliances or companies, but it discusses quality and it does award particular EPCs on quality. I just want to stress it's from 2020, that's 4 years ago. It is out of date now. There are more appliances on the market that were not assessed because they've come in more recently, but you can find that online, Global Leap Buyer's Guide, Electric Pressure Cookers. And it makes awards to quality appliances, but it will also kind of help to signpost towards what does make a quality appliance. There's a concept note that discusses it. There's a link here, so you'll be able to access that after we send the slides through, that describes the attributes of a quality electric pressure cooker. There are safety standards that electrical appliances have to conform to through TBS, of course. And yeah, I've said at the bottom here that the suppliers on the previous slide all do have quite high quality appliances. But we would recommend that if you're sourcing from a factory for the first time, to receive samples to check their quality first, or at least to do as much careful due diligence as you can if you are starting to bring in a new appliance. Talking about what we're doing now, so the second bullet point on this list, MECS is in the process of developing performance standards. So part of the work program we have in Tanzania is about developing performance standards. And I will just quickly flick to that slide here. So we are working with TBS to develop minimum energy performance standards to ensure quality e-cooking appliances of these 4 appliances. There's already been some efforts to do performance standards for various other appliances like fridges and motors and fans, and we are extending that work to do these 4 e-cooking appliances. And there will, as part of this, be a customer labeling scheme so that customers can tell which are the most efficient appliances. The challenge is that this work has just begun. The technical working groups that are involved in developing those standards have started to meet, but it is a process. And so as with the awareness, it's not the case that this is done there now and ready for you now, but just to give you a heads up that this is coming. So the standard will be drafted by February, but then it takes TBS, could be up to a year to actually validate it and verify it and actually put it out there. So quality is a tricky one. There's no kind of super easy quick fix yet, but there's one in the works. Yeah, I'm not sure, Simon, if you want to say anything else on that.
No, not on quality and safety. As I think Anna said, do get samples from the factory and do test them yourself. I got 2 20-liter EPCs from 2 different brands the other day, and one of them was actually quite inefficient. It had a single skim lid. It only had 1 safety valve. And so it is generally the global leap told us that the induction stoves and EPCs, it's much of a muchness. They're all very, very similar, but there are just 1 or 2 outliers that have low quality and should be avoided. I see, Rajab, you're having trouble actually seeing the slides. I think that's just you, I'm afraid. Just drop out and come back in, maybe. And the other question on the chat that I noticed is, are off-grid locations served by mini-grids eligible? Yes, very much so. You'll find on our main website a report called Cosmo. I forget what it stands for now, but it was it's all about mini grids anyway. And what we did was get mini grid developers to look at their financial returns with and without e-cooking, and the conclusion of that broad set of research across multiple countries was that if you plan to include e-cooking at the planning of the mini grid, it's very easy to include it with minimal extra cost. Some mini grids are oversized anyway and can include e-cooking without a problem. There are all sorts of tricks in terms of time of use, tariffs, etc., that can make it all very viable. And I would recommend that you have a look at some of our research on that. But the one I remember is a mini grid that was going to cost $2.5 million to build, and then the developers planned to introduce e-cooking through EPCs. That added to the cost of the grid and grid build, and it became 2.8. But the 2.5 gave a payback on the money only after 9 years, whereas the 2.8 with the e-cooking gave payback on the money after 2 years. So the increased demand on the mini grid was very welcome and completely uplifted the finances. And I see Jane has put the synthesis report on the chat function. Yeah, so Anna has moved us on to slide about ordering. I already said, watch out for that time lag. Some of our colleagues and partners around the world really get caught out. Don't try and do things during Chinese New Year if you're ordering from China, because the whole place shuts down for about a month. And then make sure you've got enough time to ship it and enough time to clear from customs. So it's a question of trying to forecast when will you need to put in an order to restock. When are the payments due to the supplier? Some people want it up front. Some people will let you take it at 50% and then want the balance once the order has arrived, i.e. has ended its shipping and its transport bit. Again, you need to take into account if you've got loans, if you've added to your capital, how are you going to cover those interests until the product arrives and you start selling? And particularly if you've got PayGo, how will you get the funds in time to do the restocking? Because PayGo, people pay a deposit. The product may cost, let's say, $80. They give you $10, and then they take a year to give you the rest over a period of time. But you may want to restock after 6 months, and you haven't yet got the full payments for the first shipment. So it's particularly if you're doing PayGo, you really need a clear cash flow forecast, which I think is the next slide.
Yes, so from now we have some slides on the cash flow model, and I can also switch to sharing a sample of that when is useful.
Let me just say, we hope we're trying to find a balance between treating you like adults and canny, clever businessmen, but actually just spelling out what it will need in the application to convince us. This is because we have been caught out in the past in other countries where we have made the assumption people know what they're doing, and then they've ordered one set of devices. They haven't put a reasonable profit margin on it. They've got to the end of their first seed fund, and they don't have enough to reorder, and it's not a sustainable business. So I'm going to apologize if you think we're talking down to you, but we are going to go through this cash flow model, just saying you have to put in all your costs. And like Rajab has raised a couple of times now, you have to allow for price changes. Are the Chinese or whoever you're importing from going to put the price up when you restock? Is the exchange rate going to change, etc.? Are the taxes, import taxes, going to change? Anyway, sorry, Anna, back to you.
Okay, so yes, we'll go through. Well, this is just a list to kind of remind us as we went through the customer journey. Simon was talking about all the different costs that can come up. And so this is a list of those, although I realize now that media is not on here. So already this list is incomplete. But staff costs, and not forgetting extra staff like accountants who maybe are not around all the time. Costs for clearing, costs for storage, costs for transport, any cost of retail, of having a shop, or sales agents, etc. Interest payments, commission to sales agents if they're being paid on commission, delivery costs, collection costs, and then also a proportion of management costs. So if you're selling multiple products, assigning a proportion of those costs to the eCooking product. So that's just a kind of reminder of all the different costs. And as I said, I've realized that media costs is not on here, but we talked about that at the beginning. So please forgive me for that. And then including all incoming payments from grants, from customers purchasing the product, and then whatever time lag is associated with that. As Simon said, PayGo has a time lag If they're paying by installments, there's a time lag as opposed to whether or not it's on the point cash sale. And then any other schemes that you might have, any other financing coming in, if there are any other RBF schemes that you're participating in. And then the point of the cash flow model is it puts all of these cash flows against when the payments are going to happen. Such that you can kind of see how things are going to change over time. So you need to forecast or estimate sales into the future and also estimate those costs into the future. And really paying attention to, because something that we've seen people not do several times is pay attention to including the time it takes to restock. They're not having a big kind of gap between when you run out of stock and then when stock comes back in, because then kind of customer interest can start to reduce and lag again. So paying attention to when you order, when you get the product, when payments go out, and how that all kind of fits together. So now I will stop sharing this and show the cash flow model. And Simon, you can.
Yeah, just to say that, so this cash flow model, yes, of course you'll have the PowerPoint after this workshop training. The model that Anna is showing is not one that developed by us. We went on the web and we said, well, where can we give them an example of a cash flow forecast? This is very UK, British orientated, and it's intended for. We have something called the Duke of Edinburgh scheme, and it's to encourage young people to start a business and actually work out how to grow that business. And so it's a standard standard spreadsheet on their website to try and help the young people think through all that is needed. You'll see that there are several tabs, the business plan, and we'll circulate this spreadsheet as well. There's the personal survival budget, because one of the things a lot of youngsters forget when they're starting up a business is to actually pay themselves. And they end up, relying on living with mum and dad for 5 years trying to get their business up and running. So this is why you have a personal survival budget sheet, and then you have sales, and you need to say the assumptions in month 1, in month 2, and the sheet allows for a number of different products. You may well just put the single project that you're applying for, the single product that you're applying for in the seed fund. But the main one is that sheet 4, which is the cash flow forecast. And I'll let Anna talk that through.
Okay, great. So, I mean, it's not too complicated. It just shows that we have these cash inflows here and cash outflows here, and then these are the months. So it's putting that against time, basically, and then seeing how it comes out. So at this last column, this last row, sorry, will be the total cash inflow. So I guess so in here you'd put sales, and we'll share the link to get this, but we'll also just share the sheet itself. Any value of any loans or such things, any cash inflows. And then this is a very long list, but may not have everything that we've talked about of all the different cash outflows and when they're expected to happen. So here is where you can kind of play with timings in terms of orderings, when you have to make payments for orders and such things like that. And so then it will calculate your net cash flow. So the differences between what's coming in and what's going out, and then you can make sure that this is never going negative or problematic. And then it discusses your kind of closing cash position. So yeah, it's just to kind of highlight that we want to see in your applications that you've thought about these different timings, of the different costs, and also when the money is coming in and how that all makes sense, such that after the seed funding, you're in a position to keep going. So the place where the kind of the sales price is set needs to be kind of carefully thought about. Which I think takes me back to the presentation. As I said, we will share this sheet, so bear with me.
So we haven't directly addressed the question of unit cost and profit margin. That is for you to decide. You need to find out where you're going to get the supply. Oh, okay, it was right. So you need to. It's always a balance point between what the customer is willing to pay and you know the where you can get your supply from and how much profit margin you can add without turning off the customer. So that's for you to decide whether you're importing it directly. Make sure that you've added in all the customs, clearance costs, transport costs, sale, you know, all your other business expenses, sales agents, etc. in that margin. If you're making a deal or an alliance with one of the ones that we put on the slide, the Burns or the Up Energies, then it's going to be about your skill in negotiating their wholesale price down so that you can buy in bulk and reassure them. We still haven't addressed Jared's sorry, I keep calling you Jared. Rajab's question about fluctuating currency exchange. So having done sheet 4 and the cash flow, it is then worth actually producing sheets 5, 6, 7, and 8, saying what would happen if the interest rates go up by 1%, 2%, 3%, or if the foreign exchange changes by 10% or 20%. And just because once you've got the first sheet, to change the assumptions is very easy. And then you can see whether your cash flow goes negative, whether you will need to adjust the sale price. So do that sensitivity analysis by having your baseline. This is what we hope will happen, but this is what, if it goes up or it goes down, this is how we will adjust things. Yeah. I think Anna thinks that we're finished because she's just taken the slides away. Nope. Yeah, just that last point. You've got to have enough margin. Okay, Anna's sensitivity analysis. Right, let's go for questions again. Okay, Robert is asking on the chat, how far down does the cash flow model have to go? Like how many months? Well, so we, you know, our emphasis all the time is that we're looking to get value for money for our grant, our seed fund grant. And really, we want to see that your forecast suggests that you are sustainable. I think the number of months depends on how quickly you will mobilize. We certainly would like to see that second restocking, you know, when will that occur, and have you set the unit costs such that you've got the money for restocking and ongoing sales?
So, sorry, Simon, the restocking we're talking about is restocking immediately after the 500 pieces of the funding are depleted.
Yes. So okay. You've ordered your 500, you've got going, and then they're all out the door and in the hands of customers, and you need to restock. But as I think Anna said earlier on, the problem is you don't want to wait until that 500th has gone out the door and then order the next 500 or the next 200 or whatever it is, because it takes then time. It may take 4 months, 5 months to get that restock actually into the country, and you don't want to have your staff hanging around not selling things, etc. So it's in that cash flow model. You've got to get enough cash back such that you can do the restock in a timely way before the 500th goes out the door. I mean, we live in a complex world. Life rarely goes forward to plan. That's always the contradiction in business. We make a plan and then something happens. So in the application for the seed fund, what you're trying to communicate to us is that you are aware and conscious of the realities of business life. That's probably the bottom line. We want to see that you've got a sensible plan, and if the plan goes awry because suddenly the interest rate changes or the foreign exchange changes, that's not your fault, but at least you're aware that it might happen and that you're trying to mitigate that as much as possible. I see a hand with you, Charles.
Yes, Simon, we do have a question here.
Yeah, so I think some of it has been answered, but I'd like to understand in terms of the lead time, talking of 10 months to make sure you sell 500 pieces. I just wanted to know what's the flexibility there, considering sometimes customs can be a challenge. As you said, China might have their end year celebration and whatever obstacles that come in. The 10 months period, is that fixed or is it something, as long as there's a justifiable explanation, can be considered or extended? And my next question was, I want to understand why the 500. Maybe some people have more capacity to sell 1,000. Why is it limited to 500 in 10 months? Can you do more? Can we do 1,000? Can you do 2,000? What does that mean?
Thank you. Back to you, Simon.
Yeah, you can definitely do more. I think we looked at the size of the grant that we were offering, and we felt that 500 was a reasonable catch within that grant. 10 months, we are under some pressure to spend the money within a certain time period. So it's one of those donor things. Money has to go out the door within the frame. So yeah, Anna is reminding me that the 10 months is not extendable. I was going to be a bit softer than that, but I'll get told off by Anna and Jane. So yeah, I'm afraid certainly try to plan for at least the 500 in at least 10 months. But yeah, if you can sell 2,000, go for it. The 500 was because of the size of the grant that we're offering.
I'm just going to
and
ask
just
a
to
question.
come back to oh, sorry.
Hello, can Anna consider when we say it's, I mean, situations in Tanzania can get very complicated. And I know that the main objective here is value for money. If I want to sell and make a profit, definitely I'll be purchasing from overseas to cut down costs, right? But local market price would be a bit tricky to make a profit margin. And that's what we're looking for, sustainability. But if I was to ship a container, or half a container, or a quarter of a container from whatever the source is, I don't want them, but they will be obstacles. And so I would like the project to take that into consideration, because at the end of the day, if I'm going to do a business of selling 500 units, then I'm not making a profit just because I'm confined to a 10 months period. How do we make that viable? The viability is based on, can I sell and can I make a profit, and is this sustainable? So shipping and time lags and Chinese holidays should be considered, and maybe I'm pushing it back if that can be some lead time for people to be flexible. Because if I don't sell and I've already ordered 500 units, then what happens if it's 10 months? And do you take the grant away? What happens?
Yeah, I'm on very dodgy ground answering you, because I would say that we're probably not going to take the grant away, but then Jane has already probably got steam coming out of her ears, and because she's the contract manager.
Do you want me to jump in, Simon?
Yes, go on then, Jane, but don't be too harsh on them.
Okay. Okay, so Simon's right, we have a deadline for this. All of our funding needs to be spent by February 2026. So the deadline for these projects is to be completed by December of next year. And what we do as part of the program, what we have to do as part of our funder, is we pay on deliverables. So there's an indicative timetable for funding. And in order to get that funding, there are certain requirements that you need to make. So we need to see that you've bought the appliances that you've put in your application. We need to see that they've kind of arrived in country. And then the final payment for the seed fund is that you need to have delivered what you say you would do in your proposal. So if you've said that you're going to sell 500 appliances, we need to see that in the proposal, in the final report. And if you don't deliver that, then the funding that you're given as the final payment will reflect what you've achieved. So that's all very clear. It's all very well outlined in the contract that you will sign up to. And it's kind of indicative of what we're expecting you to provide to us. Thanks. So Anna's kind of brought up the finance slide, which gives you a kind of clear indication of what we will provide. So there's an initial 40% at the start of the contract, which enables you to then get those orders in. Some of it will be upfront payments, so that enables you to do that. And then the payments will reflect what you're delivering as part of the program moving forward. So you get to the delivery of all your appliances and you will have received 80% of the funding. And then that 20% will be indicated on what you've achieved against the contract and against your proposal. And if you haven't achieved all your deliverables, then that 20% will be amended and will reflect what you've delivered. I hope that's clear. Any questions?
Any question? No question from our side, Jen. Back to you.
Thank you. So Rajab, you've got your hand raised.
Okay, thank you. Maybe my question is about the number of multiple funding projects. Previously, I was participating on the training tender program, which you opened a few months ago. I would like to know, but the awardee was almost one applicant need to be offered the bid. So what about this program? How many about the multiple project will be funded? With numbers, talk about the numbers that expected to be funded over the programs.
So you're asking how many applicants or how many projects will be funded?
Yes.
So it depends on the number of applications. It will be a number of applications. We've got £750,000 to spend as part of the seed fund, but it's divided between this seed fund, which are for smaller organisations, new organisations to the sector, and larger organisations. So there's a £200,000 pot for more established organisations, and then this £58,000 seed fund for newer organisations. And it will be divided between the two. So we've specifically not said how many we will fund. we've been encouraged by the number of applications and expressions of interest for this workshop. So it might be that we fund more of those organisations that way. All I can say is that it will be multiple organisations, and the deadline dates, this call closes on the 1st of December, the second call closes on the 8th of December. So they're very close together for us to enable us to choose and ensure that we spend the funding across both of those two seed funds.
Okay, our next question is about the, I've seen that you provided the business model, I think the cash flow model that will need to be filled. I couldn't get it because the question was about, are we going to use that as the template? Because on the application form, there's a segment on the budget says you can use the template, I mean table form to fill in, and there's no word count on it. So are we going to use the provided template on feeding that grant application form, or that is going that template which you Mr. Simon shows there is going to be used during the reporting on the execution of the program, or there's something else you try to use meaning during the presentation?
I'll start. So we would, as part of your application, we would like you to do a cash flow model. So you can use a template like the one that I showed, or you can make your own Excel spreadsheet. There'll be other templates out there, but we would like to see a cash flow model as part of your application. And then in terms of where that fits in the application, maybe Jane can explain.
So you can, because it's an Excel spreadsheet, it isn't part of the word count. So you can just include that in your email when you submit an application. Does that answer your question, Rajab?
As an attachment, Jane?
As an attachment, yes, or you can attach it as a separate document, but yes, as an attachment. And we would like to see the Excel spreadsheet. So please don't save it as a PDF, because we'd like to have a look at your calculations.
The question, Miss Jane, excuse me, but there's a section I read the grant application say in addition document will not be allowed, so I couldn't understand that.
So
the grant application
so it's fine for this. It's fine to include the Excel spreadsheet. I get a little bit confused over the two seed funds, but for the larger one, we're asking people to submit extra documentation, and that as an Excel spreadsheet, it's not included in your word count, and you can submit it. That will be fine.
But
also as part of this one.
Yes, attachment. This is,
yeah.
Any additional document will not be accepted, and the application will be total cancel. So we don't understand. Maybe if there's anything, an alternative of how we can apply on feeding the actually from the grant application form. I've seen there's a table form, and the table which you need to be filled in. So like when you add an additional document according to the eligibility criteria, say in addition document to this application will be total cancel. So what I couldn't understand when you say that it can be used or not. The template actually, when I see the template is quite a lot of inputs, a lot of details. So I couldn't understand compared to what has been showed in the grant application form. There's a few details and they need to be filled compared to this grant cash flow model.
So let me have a look at that. I think what we're asking you to do is send in a cash flow as part of this. So I'll have a look at the template and make sure that it reflects what we're asking for. But what I'm saying here is we need to see you're working. We need a business plan as part of your application. So please send it in separately. Myself, Anna, and Simon will be reviewing all of these applications. So we will know that we have to look at your business plan.
So even though it says don't send anything else, do send us this.
Yes, thank you, Anna.
For the people who have not managed to attend this one, they will not get that. I think you should consider sending that to the
We will,
group.
yeah. We will send that. We will revise those instructions, and we will also revise the document that's online if it doesn't reflect it.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to just loop back to institutions. Now that we were talking about the 500, domestic, but we said that we would entertain institutions if you can make a value for money argument. So just reminding people that is a possibility. But now that we've discussed the sort of restocking and the sustainable business idea, just to flag with you that supplying products to institutions is potentially more challenging than to domestic. Because there are fewer institutions, you have a much smaller customer base. The customers, the decision makers are muddy in that, is it the headmaster? Is it the parent teacher? I'm sorry, I'm focusing on schools. Is it the parent teacher association? It's not always clear who the decision makers are within institutions and who can actually authorize a big change in the kitchen. When you go for these larger appliances that Anna's showing now, the wiring becomes very important because they're over 2 kilowatts, and that means that you're getting beyond a 13 amp plug, and you need bespoke wiring. And from a sustainable business point of view, yes, you can make a greater profit margin on any one of these devices, but your opportunity for repeat business is a lot less. In business, you really want a repeat product, something that many customers want, and preferably that they actually want several times. So that's why soap is always a good business, because people need soap bars, they use it, and then they come back for some more. With domestic e-cooking devices, yeah, it's true that they will last 5-10 years and they may not be coming back for more, but they will come back for those accessories. Their confidence in their e-cooking will make them come back to you for maybe a kettle or some associated device. But when you're looking at institutions, you often have a big grand plan to change the kitchen of one particular institution, and then there just isn't many opportunities to revisit that customer, or for that customer to inform others. Now, the exception to that might be if there was a national program on schools, which I think there is. Anna, if you slide all the way down to right at the bottom, I think you've got a SE for all slide there somewhere. Yeah. So just to make you aware that again, one of the threads of the bigger program is work in schools, accelerating clean cooking in schools, and initial target of 50 schools. Again, it's going to be, on quite a tight timeline. And indeed, they then want to expand to 200 schools. So if you are thinking institutional, you may want to make connections into this program so that you're selling your products into the program, that is then selling it onto the schools. And I'm just giving you a flag that says selling directly to schools is more difficult than selling to domestic customers. I think we're coming towards the end. Any other questions? Farida, yes, please. Oh, no, that's Charles. Yeah, go on then, Charles.
Yes, thank you, Simon.
Sorry, I'm taking you guys a bit back, but I just want to understand in terms of backend support, the technical team. If I was to load, let's say I have 100 units and I want to kickstart selling, what would be the kind of immediate backend support in terms of training these people? Would I take it back to the manufacturer, or would you guys offer some sort of a schooling or training for them? Or is it something I just have to build through my own effort?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Yes, so we have talked about training technicians, and we are seeking to create a network that Anna, you can just pop down. Yeah. But of course that all takes time. So you do need to, if you're just going to get going quickly, you want to be able to satisfy your customers and keep them satisfied. There are actually a whole load of YouTubes and electric pressure cookers are not that difficult to repair, even the electronics. Induction stoves are a little bit more difficult to repair and require slightly more training. So yeah, your question is, do we give back-end support? Our back-end support will be to create this network. We won't be undertaking training directly ourselves. There are a lot of resources out there. You could always reach out to Anna or myself and say, oh, you said there were some YouTubes there, training manuals. Can you give me a starter for of a few of them? But you can equally do that with Google and find them that way. The manufacturers, the Chinese manufacturers, then they're not going to be helping you. They sell their product and that'll be it. Robert.
Yeah, Simon, I wanted to ask about the institutional eCooking. How do we get connected to that project if you have some interest in being part of it?
I'm going to refer to Anna. Who should they contact? Someone in SE for All?
Charles can put them in touch. Charles has shared his email earlier on in this call. Yeah, Charles at primeexpertise.co.tz. And we're happy to make onwards connections.
Thank you, Anna.
Rajab?
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. Actually, it is a really interesting program. I have been seeing it into another angle, despite I'm trying to emphasize eCooking training, but basically carbon financing, because I'm repairing carbon credit issues. So I have a few questions actually I need to raise here. First of all, it's about the pricing. You really provide about the clear description and how we can make pricing when you try to ordering the units or purchasing the units. But once I was trying to consider such thing, I realized there's something very critical. Maybe I try to, for your advice, how you can try to resolve it. Basically, it's when different kind of product, they have different kind of version and functionality. You can get certain products, maybe it's has few features and cost low prices, and there's medium, premium, and also etc. So actually, as a supplier, I would like to occupy all the 3 type of the products. But the challenges was that when trying to grouping the prices, because you can say I need to buy maybe I need to purchase maybe induction, actually maybe EPC, right? But there are various of EPC with various features, I mean premium features. So how can I group it with the specific price so that once I submit my budget, it will be look very cost effective, rather than maybe I can just group it maybe in total. I can say maybe I have budgeted maybe 1,000 pounds, but within 1,000 pounds, I have budget I will buy 3 units with minimum features and certain 4 units with premium features. So how can it be considered as my budget look very cost effective, rather than actually previous, someone can say maybe this guy is trying to dodge, providing a false narrative of the price. How can you consider that my budget, which I provided, really precise? And the other thing is about awareness. Of course, we may try to use various tools to try to provide awareness, but one of the things I've been seeing here is about issue of the user. Most of the appliances we try to buy in, we try to purchase and sell, they are basically they use the we talk about the English language. Most of its application, most of the usability, I mean operation. But when you come to the other hand, most of the customer they do prefer and they need to understand. They only understand for Tanzania, they understand Swahili language. So is there any means that we can try to think how we can make this customer understand according to the product usability, so that we can enhance, once they bought our product, they get, as you say, easily to be managed and monitored, apart from what we just say, maybe I need to buy it and try to purchase and sell to the customer, something like that. But also, in addition to that, it's about can I use this program as a way forward program for myself? For example, actually, I'm working with the carbon credit project, so I've been seeing this next opportunity that I can use using my platform. Actually, we had a carbon credit platform, so we can use this. Apart from the program is going to be closed, can I be using as carbon credit using e-appliances in collaboration with ministries and departments that I'm connected with, or if just the program is closed, then I have to stop it.
Oh, right. So you ask really interesting and good questions, Jeff. Let's start with the 3 different quality of products, one with all the fancy bells and whistles. I mean, I have an air fryer that has Wi-Fi and I can control it from here, but it costs a lot of money. I also have another air fryer that is just absolutely bog standard. You turn the dial and it gives a timer, and you know what? I use the minimum feature one much more than I do the more complicated one. But your point is, yeah, when you're putting together that cash flow, you may want to say, oh, I'm going to sell 3 minimal feature ones, 5 medium ones, and 10 high quality ones. We will, again, I come back to this emphasis that we want to see that you are making sensible business decisions, and we're not going to judge, oh, but the big feature one is never going to sell. That's up to you. You know your market, the people's willingness to pay. So that's all part of your explaining how you see the market and how you see the business model. You talked about carbon finance, and you said that you're already into carbon finance. Yeah, this seed fund can be used in conjunction with carbon finance. I did a very short talk about how, with the Internet of Things, these devices are now strongly accepted by people who are buying carbon credits on the market. Again, I don't want to get too complicated, but there's something called Article 6.2, which are bilateral agreements between Tanzania and other countries. The voluntary market, there's the gold standard, the Vera. I'm not sure who you're working with at the moment, but both of them have what are called metered methodologies. And when you offer a carbon buyer a metered methodology, you get a premium price. So if you're actually selling an improved cook stove, it's quite difficult now to get $4, $5 per ton of CO2 saved. But most of the people who are selling these devices in other countries are getting $20, $25, even $30 per ton. And that carbon dioxide saved. So that makes the carbon element really changes the business model quite a lot, because then you can afford to sell, you can give the customer it's a little bit like pay as you go. You're giving it to them for a deposit, and then you're actually getting your payments from the carbon, whoever's buying your carbon. You know this, Rajab, because you're working in the carbon market. And it takes away the risk that the customer doesn't make payments, because the customer may not need to make any more payments. It may all come from the carbon, and yet they've got their device for like $10. The reason we didn't talk about this in the call for applications is because it does take time to set up a carbon project. You've got to do a baseline, you've got to register, you've got to have that baseline certified, you've got to have the savings certified, then you've got to go out and find a buyer for your carbon credits. It may be, Rajab, you've said that you're already involved with the carbon markets, and it may be that you have all those things already in place, in which case, yes, use this seed funding to contribute to that carbon finance program. I'm only talking about the complexity of running a carbon project for the benefit of everybody else listening, because I don't want you to all get excited. Oh, we can do a carbon project, because it's not easy to set up at the moment. That will change over the next 12 to 24 months. But as we were discussing with, I think it was Robert just now, or someone in the room, 10 months is a short timeline. And so we've got to have a plan for 10 months to access this seed funding. You had 3 points, and I've forgotten one of them. One was about the different, and also on the quality of the features of the appliance. It's worth also noting about sizes of appliance, because you can buy some really cheap electric pressure cookers that are only said to be a capacity of 3 liters, and that generally is a little bit too small for families, and it's much better to be at 6 or 8 or even 10. Rajab, can you remind me of your third point, please?
Okay, thank you. The third point was about the concern on awareness.
Yes, language Swahili.
Barriers.
Yes. Yes. So the national campaign will definitely be in Swahili, presumably predominantly Swahili with a mix of English. For you and your products, yes, of course, your media interventions, your awareness campaign, Swahili. In terms of the product itself, this is what I was saying about minimum order quantities. You can actually go to the Chinese and you can say, I want on the buttons of my EPC this, and you can have the Swahili words on the buttons. That change is very easy for them to do, but they require a minimum order to be able to do that, because they have to change their template within the factory. So yeah, definitely awareness campaign, Swahili. Okay, Raja.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe I have another question, an additional one. Is it reachable if I can collaboration with microcredits and implement this program, or?
Yeah. No, definitely. It's you can make cooperations with SACCOs, microcredits, etc., because that is another way of just getting past that upfront cost. I think I said while I was talking that often the problem with or the challenge with connecting to a microfinance organization is they don't realize the benefits of these appliances. So you have to kind of go and persuade them first, and then once they've seen the light, they'll go, oh yeah, okay, well then any of our members, any of our customers can access that finance. Because what they're looking for is reassurance that the customer is going to pay back that credit. And if you can explain to them the savings on that credit, then that convinces the microcredit organization. Charles, you have someone in the room?
Yes, Simon.
Yeah, I had a follow-up question on pay as you go. I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this project has kind of worked in other parts of the region. And so I hate inventing the wheel. I like, if it works with someone else, then it should work for the rest of us. So I was wondering, I know the whole concept is to find what works best for us, but is it possible we could share what platforms have others like us invested, and which platforms were those, and maybe we could engage from a TZ perspective so that we don't start looking for something new that other people are using and it's working perfectly well. The other question was about the OBF, they're called OBF, I think, the ones which connect with the TANESCO system. I wanted to know, is that active? Is it working, or is it still under project? When should we expect TANESCO to start bringing it into action, or is it something still on the drawing board?
Okay, thank you. I'll let Anna answer the question. She's already put on the slide the one that offers PayGo services, and then she can pick up on the TANESCO thing.
Sorry, struggling to unmute. Yes, so I'm just trying to check the spelling of a photo. I don't think it may not be that. It might have an A in here. So yes, we know that there is one company in Tanzania who is offering PayGo service support. So they are called a Photobo. They will help a company integrate the technology required into an appliance and also provide the back-end service of PayGo, so the kind of connection to the telecoms companies and mobile money. So that whole kind of software as a service for PayGo. So that's a Tanzanian company. I believe there's another company in Kenya called PowerPay. Is that right, Simon? Yeah, company in Kenya called PowerPay. I don't know if they have any presence in Tanzania though, but I'm just saying that a Photobo is not the only one out there. The TANESCO program is ongoing and just started. So the TANESCO eCooking program is for TANESCO to start promoting electric cooking in multiple ways. So they're going to be raising awareness and doing capacity building inside TANESCO so that TANESCO staff are aware of electric cooking, aware that it's feasible and affordable, but they're also going to raise awareness outside of TANESCO, so to their customers. So there's a big awareness raising component there as well. So you will start to see TANESCO putting out more material about electric cooking over the next year, basically. It only started last month, October 2024, so it's very new. But as part of the plan is to do on-bill financing. So to facilitate, TANESCO will be facilitating the acquisition of eCooking appliances through on-bill financing. So this means the customer pays a small deposit and then they pay. So then, for example, when you're buying units on your Luku prepayment meter, you might buy, I don't know, 20 units, but you'd only receive 18. And the cost of 2 of them would go to the appliance, or something like this. The exact percentages need to be worked out, but the point is it's built into the electricity payment such that it's not possible to do one without doing the other. Also, staff will be able to pay through their paychecks, but I guess that's less relevant because that's just for the staff. So it's I believe we will start seeing on-bill financing pilots in the new year. So in the next couple of months, they'll start to be piloting it. But by the end of next year, on-bill financing should be happening. Rajab, yeah.
I think I have a suggestion, an opinion. No, it's an opinion, a view, a view is about most of the Tanzanian, regardless from urban and peri-urban community, they always fear about the cost of the electricity per unit. They do recommend about that they don't have sufficient financial flow in order to manage the payment of the unit once they're going to use these e-cooking appliances. So my question was about due to this notion that's been spread over the most of Tanzanian citizens, how can we overcome them? Because despite TANESCO, you have been saying about the program TANESCO awareness, but there's still some people, they fear about transforming themselves into the e-cooking appliance due to such kind of beliefs. And basically, some TANESCO, they say they have this called the services. It's called after services. That's after service charges, means service charges. Once the permitter, when they're going to realize that they say that every customer using the national grid have a specific unit per month. Of course, they say basically within every month you need to use almost 40 to 30 units. So once the customer is going to transfer into this e-cooking appliance, we expect to have an additional the units. So how does they going to affect in this? As you can consider about that belief of this Tanzanian who they keep complaining about once they are going to shift into e-cooking appliance, the electric bill will increase.
Yeah, their electric bill will increase, but their cost for charcoal and other cooking fuel will decrease. So that's why the awareness raising component of our program is so important, because at the moment, the slide that I'm showing you here is the cost of cooking for 1 month on electricity, these first 2 yellow bars. First, the lifeline tariff. So if you're a household that's only using less than 75 units a month, you pay much less than if you're using over that. And then this is how much it costs to cook on LPG, and this is how much it costs to cook on charcoal. And these numbers are from May this year, so May 2024. So the challenge that we have is that this is not in people's minds. There is a lack of awareness that e-cooking is affordable. So that is why we have this national e-cooking campaign. We hope that it will help the sector. It's not just, it's not otherwise. Every company that is supplying e-cooking appliances has to do the same awareness raising, the same behavior change, the same mindset change work If we have a national campaign, then that mindset will start to change. That campaign is endorsed by the Ministry of Energy, so it fits within the Ministry of Energy's communication plans about clean cooking, and it will be directly trying to address these problems that this information, the fact that these highly efficient devices exist that can save money is just not very common knowledge. So yes, when people start to use electricity for cooking, their electricity bills will go up a bit. But the point is for them to understand that their costs for cooking fuel will go down if they are going from charcoal and from gas. That's the bit that we need to kind of make clear. And then the other thing that I would say on that is that there are some companies who have appliances, and this relates to what Simon was saying about different features. Some companies have appliances which count up the units of electricity that are used on the appliance. Because you do get some people who think, okay, I'm cooking with electricity now. I'll check how much electricity I'm using. And they go and check their meter, and they are worried because also they have on their fridge, their TV, their radio, all their lights, and they think all of this is being used by the electric cooker, right? So an appliance, we know that an appliance that will show you how much electricity you've used for that meal, for the makande, for the beans, whatever it is, for that meal, it really does convince people, because then they realize that it's their fridge, it's their other appliances, radio, whatever, that is using all their electricity. It's not the eCooking. It's the eCooking is actually not very much money at all. You can cook for a day on, around 700 shillings for a day of cooking on electric cooking, which is very small money compared to what people are paying for charcoal. So it might be worth thinking about that, looking out for an appliance which has that meter on the front. I know some companies are doing it. I think Up Energy, Smart Pika, they have this display so that the customer can directly see, oh, look, I've cooked rice and it only cost me, however many shillings, 150, 200 shillings. And that helps to change the mindset over time. Does that help to answer that?
Yeah, thank you. I also have another question. Actually, you have provided very nice explanation. My question goes to the market issues. Actually, you really provided about the good explanation on the media, but there's one thing about your key objective. We need to distribute this eCook appliance in order to enhance usability into clean cooking energy, right? So the question is, as we always understand about marketing, take a lot of expenses in order to ensure that customer, they are going to be purchase these products. But my question is on about, I didn't, you didn't show up about the market, what about the market ratio on the budget need to be considered. At what ratio should we put in? Because one of the things we are going to consider about the price, cost effectiveness, but we understand in order we are going to distribute these products, basically the market share need to be a little bit somewhat emphasizing, the customer should be able to purchase this product. At what ratio? Because, for instance, someone can say on my advertisement, we almost take 30% of the 30% of the. Actually is for example, the 30% of the grants, and yet you may say these guys may not be so. So, how did you consider about the market cost share? Because you understand, though you are providing grants, but this is almost like business we're doing. And we see almost successful business because they put a lot of investment on marketing and advertisement. So what share do you advise us should we put in the market? And I see people say, maybe I have to find my first stock with 500 units. Actually, in your sense, when you just made a potential of 500 units, I'm not, some people, they say they got capability to do that. But for some, we are new to the business. I want to know about how do you consider about the market cost share? How should we put it on the budget? and also that we are not going to run out of business operation, run out of profit. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a question that we're throwing back to you guys to determine and decide what you think is most sensible. We want to point out that marketing and advertising is important, that all those touch points with the customer, that raising awareness, then converting it into a sale as they start to consider, and then making the actual sale, getting their interest and converting into a sale is really important part of the business plan. We want to point that out, but then in terms of how much you decide to put the funding on that is kind of, I think, up to you. I don't know, Simon, if you would say anything else on that.
No, I'd agree. And in terms of it being sustainable, you need then to build that into the price that you offer the product at, because you've got this grant to help do that sort of initial media, that advertising or whatever, but you need enough profit to be able to carry on doing marketing.
So it is very complicated, fortunately.
We will be in the application. We will be looking for. We don't. We're not going to penalize somebody if they've put 50% of their cost to media and 50% to product. What we're going to be looking for is a sustainable business, and that it gives value for money for that seed grant. Is it going to be sustainable? Is the price point reasonable? Is the supply planned and worked out? Is the cash flow sensible? So there's not kind of a set of preset criteria. It's much more about have you got a holistic, sustainable business in mind?
And have you thought through each of the different components that we've talked about?
Hey, I think we're coming to the end. I know we still have 25 minutes according to the timetable, but you've all been very patient. Oh, Rajab has put his hand up again. Hang on, let me just say you've all been very patient. You've listened to us talk. I hope we've explained. It would have been so much nicer to be in the room and over lunch have lots of informal conversations. Apologies that we weren't able to do that. But right, go on then, Rajab. Last one. Go for it.
Yeah, thank you. I have a lot of questions, but to something important. For instance, I have my platform that it's listened will be used into maybe providing training about these electrical appliances or provide education. Can that be in conjunction with this program that's been used as the advertising tool in order to reach out the market? Or maybe because the platform that has other operation it's been used for different tasks, then I need to find another meaning or maybe of advertisement, or I can intersect there. I can use it as the media of transforming the awareness about the eCooking appliance.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is actually an ideal scenario, because if you've already got a platform that is already doing awareness raising of other products or whatever, and then you're just slipping in the eCooking, brilliant. That's great, because that's leveraging the money, rather than starting something from fresh. When we put out this call, we kind of anticipated that people who we haven't really gone around the room. I know you put it all in your expressions of interest, but there are people that are already selling other products and have got all that infrastructure of sales agents and reach into the community. We're looking for you then to add in a product line of eCooking. We certainly we're not expecting everybody to be just starting from scratch. We want that leveraging, that dovetailing to happen.
Yes, Simon, we do have a question here. One last question, please.
Go on then.
Yeah, so my question is around customs, shipping. If I was to go, if any of us was to go through that route, we are eligible for funding. It's to understand how the government plays part in terms of tax reduction when we're shipping this stuff, which is specific for renewable energy. It's part of supporting the clean cooking solution. So we want to know, I'd like to know, if we were to import, are there any benefits we can gain from the government in terms of specifically VAT, if we can get an exemption for that, or if we can get an exemption less than what we should be paying? Because when you save value for money, this is where the biggest challenge is. When you have the VAT added to any cost, that's when it's an expensive item to Tanzania. So I don't know how this project will help in that process. And if it's not, maybe it should be thinking, maybe, I'm not sure, maybe it's restricted, that there's no opportunity, but if there is, we'd really like to know how it can help in making sure we get stuff through, if any of us decides to ship stuff.
Certainly that question is very much with us as on the wider program. Your President, Her Excellency Samir, is a global advocate of clean cooking, and she's trying to pivot your country towards renewable energy, clean cooking, etc. My caveat is that, you know, you have to apply for this seed funding in the next month or so, and you have to implement it in the 12 months. Whether there will be a VAT change or a customs import change within that time frame, I don't know. I sincerely hope that in the longer term, there will be some changes and some reductions, but I suggest that you probably just have to look at what are the import duties now and assume that that's what you're going to have to pay over the next 12 months. Anna, you want to comment on the VAT thread?
Yeah, so the tax exemption is in Tanzania's national clean cooking strategy, but for 2026. So it's very unlikely to happen in the next year, I think. But there are various efforts and work ongoing to kind of move along and support the exemption of clean cooking appliances and e-cooking appliances within that. But yeah, for now, there is no exemption on VAT or anything on e-cooking appliances, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Okay.
Question. Back to you, Simon. Back to you, Simon.
Okay, well, let's try and close it off again. Any last minute questions? Going once, going twice? Right. Okay. Thank you very much for joining us, and I look forward to your applications, and I really hope that things go well for you in your businesses, whether you'll succeed with the seed funding or not. I mean, hopefully, if you've got some really good ideas, you might be able to raise capital from elsewhere. You know, you don't have to think, oh, I didn't get the seed funding, so I'm going to give up. There are opportunities there. Okay. Yeah. I'll let Jane say goodbye as well, and Anna. Yeah, go on in, Anna, first.
Yeah, I'll just say that we'll be circulating the PowerPoint, the recording, and the updated application form and the cash flow spreadsheet by email shortly after this. So you will receive all of that. And yeah, just many thanks for your participation and all your questions. It was great to hear them all, and we hope we did a reasonable job at answering them. And yeah, we look forward to receiving your applications. Asante, Jane.
Thanks, Anna. I think you've covered most of what I was going to say, but yeah, lovely to see everybody here. Thank you for all the questions, kind of all of the engagement, and I echo kind of Simon and Anna, really looking forward to seeing the applications coming in. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you very much for your time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.